I used to believe that no matter how cold the world became, a parent's love would always feel like home. I was wrong. My name is Alina, and on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, my parents shattered me in front of everyone I loved. The morning of my wedding felt like something out of a dream. Sunlight poured softly through the hotel curtains. My white dress hung near the window like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. My best friend, Mia, stood behind me, gently fixing the last pin in my hair. She smiled and said, "You look happy, really happy." And I was. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Daniel, the man I was about to marry, was kind, steady, and honest. He loved me in a way that never felt heady, never felt conditional. With him, I never had to earn affection. I could simply be loved. That was new for me, because growing up, love in my family always came with strings attached. My mother cared deeply about appearances. Everything had to look perfect. The house, the family photos, our smiles at dinner parties. My father was quieter, but his silence always sided with her cruelty. If she criticized me, he looked away. If she humiliated me, he said nothing. And if I cried, they called me dramatic. When I told them I was marrying Daniel, they smiled, but something behind their eyes looked wrong. Not joy, calculation. My mother's first question wasn't, "Are you happy?" It was, "How much does he make?" Then came the little insults. "His family is simple. The venue feels small. Are you sure this is the best you can do?" Every word was polished like concern, but underneath it was shame. Still, I ignored it. I told myself they were just being difficult. I told myself today would be different. I still believed, foolishly, that somewhere deep down, they loved me enough not to ruin my wedding day. But what I didn't know that morning was that my parents had spent weeks planning something cruel. Not against Daniel, against me. As I stood at the altar, heart pounding, fingers trembling in excitement, I looked at the guests smiling warmly around me. Then my mother suddenly stood. She lifted her champagne glass and smiled. "I'd like to say a few words about my daughter," she said sweetly. The room fell silent. At first, I smiled. Then she began speaking, and with every sentence, my world cracked. "My daughter has always been impulsive," my mother said, laughing softly as guests awkwardly joined in. "She was never very practical, never very graceful, and certainly never very good at choosing wisely." I froze. My father stood beside her, holding folded papers in his hand. Then he spoke. "We were concerned this marriage was another mistake, so we thought Daniel deserved to know the truth about who Elena really is." My chest tightened. What truth? Then they began showing private pages from my old teenage journals on a projector screen. My insecurities, my heartbreak, my struggles with anxiety. Words I wrote when I was 16, crying alone in my room, begging life to feel easier. My mother had kept those journals, not to protect me, to weaponize them. Guests stared in stunned silence. Some looked embarrassed, some looked uncomfortable, and I felt stripped bare, humiliated, broken. I looked at Daniel, terrified I would see judgment in his eyes, but instead I saw anger, not toward me, toward them. He stood up and said firmly, "Enough." His voice cut through the room like thunder. "This is cruelty disguised as parenting." My mother scoffed. "We're protecting you from her instability." Daniel walked to me, held my shaking hands, and whispered, "They should be ashamed, not you." That moment changed everything. For years, I had carried quiet pain. I kept forgiving people who kept hurting me. I kept shrinking so others could feel big. No more. Because what my parents didn't know was that I had discovered something weeks earlier. By accident, I found emails on my father's laptop while helping him print wedding documents. Emails between him and my mother, secret financial transfers, hidden debts, fraudulent accounts opened in my name years ago without my knowledge. They had damaged my credit, used my identity, and quietly built a comfortable life while letting me struggle, and they thought I would stay silent. I had copies, every email, every document, every lie. I never planned to reveal it publicly. They were still my parents. Part of me still hoped they would choose love. But standing there, publicly destroyed by the two people who gave me life, something inside me hardened. Not into bitterness, into strength. I wiped my tears, turned toward the microphone, and finally, I spoke. I took a slow breath and faced the room. "You wanted everyone to know who I am," I said, voice trembling but steady. "Then let's tell the whole truth." My parents' smiles disappeared. I nodded toward Mia. She pressed a button. The projector changed. Emails appeared on the screen. Bank records, legal documents, proof. Gasps filled the room. I looked directly at my parents. "You opened accounts in my name. You left me buried in debt. You stole my identity while pretending I was the family disappointment." My father's face turned pale. My mother whispered, "Turn that off." But it was too late. Their perfect image was collapsing in real time. Family members stared in disbelief. Friends looked horrified. One of my father's business partners quietly stood up and walked out. Then another, and another. Their world, the one built on image, lies, and cruelty, began falling apart before my eyes. Not because I destroyed it, because truth exposed it. Security escorted them out after chaos broke through the reception hall. My mother screamed that I was ungrateful. My father kept saying, "You don't understand." But I understood perfectly. They never loved me freely, only when I made them look good. And that was never love. That was ownership. Weeks later, investigations began. Their finances were frozen. Their reputation vanished. People finally saw what I had lived with for years. As for me, I still married Daniel that evening, not in a ballroom, not with flowers or music, just under the quiet evening sky surrounded by the few people who truly loved us. It was simple, honest, beautiful, and peaceful. For the first time in my life, I understood something powerful. Family is not always the people who raise you. Sometimes family is the people who stand beside you when your world falls apart. The people who hold your hand while you rebuild. The people who choose you without condition. My parents gave me life, but their betrayal gave me freedom. And sometimes the truth that breaks you becomes the truth that finally sets you free.